Welcome to Legacy Cast, your source for hearing from top influencers, industry experts, and successful business owners who are telling their unique story about life, values, goals, business strategies, and the various causes they are so passionate about. Future generations will come to be impacted by what is happening today, whether positive or negative, and our mission is to focus on what is going to affect change for the better. Hosted each weekday by James Snow, a former U.S. Army combat medic, now founder and principal advisor of James Advisors Group, a full-service financial planning firm in North Texas. This is Legacy Cast. Welcome, Legacy Cast listeners. This is your host, James Snow, coming to you from North Texas. And we have this is kind of a special Labor Day episode that I'm throwing in here. I have a guest with me today, Markian Sich. He's active duty Marine Corps captain and does run also a business, which is very interesting to me as well as to many of our listeners because we have a contingency of veteran and military people that do listen. And he has a business, active duty passive income. So that's certainly something that a lot of you guys that are still serving, maybe give you some insights on what you can do. Those of you that have already transitioned out of the military, it gives you some opportunities that you can look at as far as building your legacy through the real estate direction, because obviously real estate is not going anywhere. So it's certainly something you can look into. But without further ado, I'd like to officially welcome Mark into the program. Welcome to the program, bud.
Hey, thanks. How's it going, guys? I appreciate you bringing me on. This is awesome. I always love talking to people about kind of what I got myself into while in the military, because it is incredibly it affects everybody, not only people that are currently in the military, but like you said, also veterans, because real estate isn't going anywhere, and it's an incredibly for me because for me, it was almost like an epiphany moment when I realized, holy cow, I don't only have to rely on the functions and the BRS and the TSP and all these various financial benefits of being in the military. I don't have to only rely on them. I can actually create this massive amount of generational legacy wealth while in the military. And the reason why we kind of had the pun on words in our company's name, active duty passive income, is because if an active duty guy can do it, then a reservist, veteran, retired, spouse, anybody else can do it. So, the whole idea is that we're always busy, but I want to show that it is possible that while you're active duty to already start preparing a little bit by buying pieces of America and that are producing you cash flow every single month. Because right now when new members are coming in our service, they're not going to have the ability to stay in for 20 years and then have cash flow for the rest of their life. That's not a thing anymore. After this year. And so outside the box a little bit if we want to really, really prepare ourselves well. So that's kind of what we're all about.
Sure. And, I'm glad, Markian, that you mentioned, like with the blended retirement system and the TSP, because, people really need to understand, when it comes to building that security for your family, that you have the multi-legged stool, as I call it, that you need to have, at least 3 legs, if not 4 legs of income that are going on. And so you have your standard retirement type things. Ultimately, in a perfect world, you'd have Social Security, but I don't even know if that's going to be there, quite honestly. It looks like that's going to be bankrupt probably in 15 years. So by the time that we are needing it may or may not be there. And so we have to come up with other ways of funding that, because only 3% of businesses are even offering pension funds anymore, which was one of those things. Military obviously have that benefit, but for our civilian listeners, you may or may not even have a pension to work from. And so there really is a lot that you need to do on your own, under your own steam, to be able to make up for those shortcomings. Because if you don't have it, then when you decide to retire, that quality of life and your lifestyle that you're accustomed to is not going to be there. And so, I don't want to be, too hard about that, but, let's be serious. And that's really the reality of it. Excuse me.
Yeah. Yeah.
But,
and when you're talking about lifestyle, it's probably one of the biggest epiphany moments I had when I started learning about real estate. And by the way, guys, if you're like, hey, yeah, I'm in the military, I'm a veteran, all this real estate stuff, you guys are about to jump into a bunch of techno jargon that you don't really maybe understand or whatever. I apologize, my computer almost froze on me there. There's nothing too technical about what I'm going to say, and what I'm going to talk about is I'm going to show you guys certain ways of actually feeling a change in your lifestyle now instead of maybe when you're 65. You know what I mean? Like that's why I started going down the real estate route, is because it is not a get rich quick scheme, but it is a path very well followed, and you can start doing things now that will actually, you'll see results almost immediately, little by little, and it's amazing, and that's what got me hooked. So what I'm talking about is the traditional. Okay, so first of all, let's go back to like the 20-year, the high 3 retirement. Why is that so awesome? Because at the age of, if you joined, like when I did, when I was 22 when I got out of the Naval Academy. Boom, my 20-year ticker started. So that means at 42, if I get out then, which that won't happen because I already switched to the BRS. But if I get out at 42 with the 20-year retirement, I have cash flow for the rest of my life. Right at that moment, if I get out. And that's amazing because you didn't have to, I wouldn't have had to put anything in for that. So real estate, it's not like stocks. It's not like you put in, let's say $100,000 into Apple and what you're making is interest, right? And that's it. Like that is what you're getting taxed on that interest, and you're making interest, but you're not really touching it because you want it to keep growing. So you keep it there, and it's just, you're hoping like when you're 65 or 59 and a half, if it's in a Roth IRA, whatever, that you'll be able to pull it out and it's going to be great. And everybody tells you to diversify, and then you start looking into mutual funds, and then you don't even realize that those have huge fees on them hidden, and all of a sudden, anyways, my thing with real estate is that you can actually, I'm not even counting that interest I'm making, which in real estate, we call it appreciation. I'm looking at what it's giving me every single month. So that's crazy to me, is because there's so many ways that real estate makes you money. It actually gets you cash flow every single month if you do it right. So if you buy a property in the Midwest, like we're big fans of Tennessee, Alabama, Florida, so Wisconsin, Kansas, more Midwest there, Ohio, like Indiana, where rent prices are so much higher than all of your expenses on your mortgage. So your principal, interest, taxes, insurance, property management, vacancies, maintenance, all of that stuff is significantly lower than what the rent will be of your tenant. So your tenant's moving in, he's paying $1,000, and then you realize, oh, wow, all of my expenses, and I'm buffering myself, creating some reserves and vacancy expenses down the road, it'll only coming out to like $750. That means that property right now is netting you in your pocket every single month $250. So how many of those are you going to need if you want to retire? Like, let's say you're like, okay, I can comfortably retire and maybe make some more money off of side projects if I have like $4,000 to $5,000. Well, congratulations. If you need, if every property brings you $250 and you need $4,000, you do the math, right? That you just need, 16 properties. Sounds ridiculous, but it's really not that difficult. You keep getting those, and that cash flow that they're making you just roll it right in and get another one. We actually created a calculator that'll show you how to, like, hey, you get this amount of, you get one property every year, and this is how you save up for the next one. You use the first one to help you get the next one, and it just compounds. And the next thing you know, in like 10 years, while you're serving in the military, you're not doing anything crazy, you have these 16 properties. It's crazy. Like, you just have to plan. So what I'm saying is, you have these assets, right? Like, think of them as like these stock tickers. You bought like a share of Apple, you bought a share, but they're properties. So it's like 123 Main Street, right? In Memphis, Tennessee. And this thing is making you $250 every single month. So, and you have like another 10 of them or whatever, and they're all making you the same amount. You're feeling that every single month. Your lifestyle is better. You're secure in your finances. Oh, and by the way, they're actually potentially appreciating. Real estate in America since 1920s, after the Great Depression, has been appreciating average 3 to 5% every month or every year. But we're not even like, that's just cream on the top. We're not even looking at that. Plus, you have a person there paying off that good debt, right? That is eventually going to be paid off, and it's going to be yours. So all of a sudden, 16 properties, all of them worth like $200,000 down the road. I mean, it's ridiculous. It's gonna be like, you're going to be, if all those get paid off, you're going to have $3.2 million, like just on its own. You're not contributing to that anymore. People are paying off your debt, and you're going to have all of that. So I'm sorry. I know that was just a lot of word vomit there, but that's the beauty, is that you buy these assets. They're putting cash into your pocket every single month, and you can then use that to get more of those things. You're creating these little ATM machines, these little streams of income that are making you more and more and more financially free every single one you get. And that's kind of like the why behind what I do, and what our group at Active Duty Passive Income does, is we're all about generating legacy, generational wealth, but also for the purpose of financial freedom. Like, that's what we want. We want to be able to, whenever you do decide to get out of the military, maybe you're already out of the military, have enough income coming in every month to where you could be the coach of a football team, or like do projects in your, and not freak out about it. Like, not think, oh, I need to have, a standard 9 to 5 on the side. Maybe you don't, if you actually set yourself up. So yeah, that's the idea. Anything you want to unpack there? Sorry, that was a lot.
Yeah, it's some good information there, because what people need to really understand is, doing something is going to get you to that goal quicker. Just do something. Don't sit on the sidelines and say, I wish that. Wish is not a strategy. Hope is not a strategy. Doing something is a strategy. And that kind of leads into where I would be heading with one of my next questions is the importance of having a strategy for yourself, because excuse me, if you don't have a strategy, it's like the saying goes, if you fail to plan, you plan to fail. And that's the reality of it, is that you have to have some sort of a plan put in place. And the stuff that you, Markian, are talking about, or Markian, I'm sorry, is when you are doing the things that you're doing, there are also other things that you can do in the meantime that can set you up for working with the programs that you're doing. So where our listeners are getting some information here is, there's ways that they can juggle all of their moving pieces to be able to get into this world. And it's not something like, oh my gosh, I have to come up with all this money. That isn't always the case, because you have assets you can be leveraging.
Well, actually, that's a good point. So this might sound a little polarizing and crazy, but I actually liquidated my Roth IRA, and I bought up my first rental property that way, because in my mind, I would rather have cash flow, appreciation, tax benefits, all of this, and principal reduction, so growing my wealth. I'd rather have all of those things, and that sounds super technical. I'll get into it in a little bit. Rather than just like putting my money away and not being able to touch it until way, way, way down the road for me. And people are like, well, you're saving so much taxes when you're putting your money away into a Roth IRA or whatever. Well, true, but you also are very, very limited in what you do with that. Sure. What you can do, however, is you can make your IRA into a self-directed IRA and have that IRA buy rental properties. Sounds crazy, but it's totally doable. Some people love doing that, because then you don't pay any capital gains taxes, and you can just buy like that property. If it appreciates by doubles in value, you can then sell it within your IRA, get a different one, an even bigger one, all still in your IRA, and you didn't pay a penny of taxes. Well, guess what? That actually exists outside of the IRA. So if you're a little crazy like me and you're like, I'm just going to liquidate my IRA, I paid 10% penalty on my gains, but wasn't that much. Ended up, I contributed like $22,000 over like 6 or something years into my IRA, and it had gone up to 33 at that point. So I had to pay taxes on like $11,000 of it. After all said and done, like I ended up only paying like $1,000 in taxes. And I say only because all of a sudden I have $32,000 I wasn't able to touch at all now available to me for real estate investing. To buy a $100,000 property, for example, in the Midwest, all I need is 20 plus some closing costs. So now I have an asset and I'm starting the ball rolling. And I just, I plug it into my little calculator that we made. I'm like, okay, this property is getting me $250 every month. I'm setting aside $250 every month. That's $500 every single month going to my next rental property. Boom. And I figure out that all I need is 2 months times to make $1,000. And then I need that 20. So I need basically 20 months, right? 20 months to get my next $20,000. Boom. So 40 months, whatever. And so you just keep doing that. And then the next property, when it starts making you cash flow, you're not in a rush. You're going through your career, you're going through your job, keep your day job. But this is just, like you were saying, it's another part of that stool. It creates a whole other way for you to save, a way for you to create assets. Because, I mean, you're gonna see it one day, and you're gonna be like, wow, I'm collecting these rent checks. Oh, wow, by the way, every single year, my rent's going up 3%. So your cash flow is actually increasing. So that $250 you're making every single month off this one property you bought, years down the road, it's making you $300 or maybe $400 every single month. So you're essentially, if you have, let's say, 10 rental properties, every year you're going to actually start collecting more money. As long as you're properly maintaining them, you have good property managers, you're taking care of your maintenance, you bought them in areas where there's job growth, there's good neighborhoods, good stable markets. You're going to be getting wealthier every single month because those people are going to be paying off your debt and the rents are going to increase. Like, it's almost a rule that in good markets, rents go up about 3%. It's just, I mean, I'm not making this up, folks. You can look at all the stats yourself. On average, rent in good markets, rent does go up about 3% every single year. In San Diego, I was worried that this wasn't going to be the rule because, for example, in the extreme markets like San Francisco and in New York and stuff, it's absolutely not the case. When the housing market crashed, rents did go down. Whereas in San Diego, I actually looked at it. It's crazy. Right after 2008, 2009, 2010, 2011, the worst years after the crash, actually rents kept going up. RBAH kept going up. So I bought a primary residence here. So even if the market crashes, I'm not going to sell this thing. I'm just going to keep it. I'm going to rent it out. And if it's not cash flowing immediately, if I when I PCS somewhere, it's going to eventually. Because this is a Southern California property and it's a nice 3-bedroom, 2-bath. It ain't going nowhere. People are always going to want to live here. And that brings me to my next point. Like, if you buy a house as a rental property, don't obsess about its value. As long as the numbers work in every single month, you're making money. I don't care if my rental property in Union, Georgia, after a crash happens tomorrow, I don't care if it's worth half of what I paid for it. As long as there's still renters in there and as long as they're still paying it off and as long as I'm still making money every single month, because that's all I care about is that stream of income.
Right.
I mean, at least that's just my mindset, right? And we started off talking about like the taxes a little bit too with the Roth IRA piece. If you have a rental property and you decide you don't want that one anymore, you want a bigger one because it appreciated a good amount and you're like, oh, I want to roll that into a multifamily property now that's like 5 units. You can totally do that and you won't pay a penny of taxes on that either. It's called a 1031 exchange. You buy a like asset according to the IRS and it's called a lifetime exchange. You have to use a special custodian. You sell one, then you get the other, and all those capital gains get rolled away. And you keep rolling that ball down the road until you pass away and you pass it on to your children and they do not inherit the capital gains taxes. So, I mean, I can talk about taxes all day too. It's insane. It's insane. It's really, really, it's the cornerstone of American wealth as far as I'm concerned.
Yeah. So as a CEO of your particular operation there, what would you say maybe some of the things are that as a business owner kind of keep you up at night though? There's probably a couple things, wouldn't there? Yeah.
So are you things that keep me excited or things that get me
on a concerning level?
On a concerning level, it is that honestly that people just won't kind of the people that come into our so this is what we have, right? We have a bunch of free content, we have a course, and we have members coming in that are just starting off and they're buying rental properties. They went through our course. They're like, they get really excited. Some of them crushed through our course in like 3 days. They're like, all right, I want to get a rental property now. And they get one, and then there might be an issue coming. So like, for example, we had a guy who had a squatter in his rental property because the property management wasn't able to lease it up fast enough, which is a lesson learned. Never buy a turnkey rental property that isn't already rented, and that's in the contract. Anyway, so he had a squatter show up, and it cost a bunch of money, but the company covered it, so he's good. It's those little things, because now I'm like, goodness, this one little life situation, I hope that doesn't change his mindset on real estate. I hope a bump in the road, a stumbling, doesn't like ruin his entire mindset. And I don't think it will. This guy's super motivated, but I've had tons of difficulties really getting this whole ball rolling for myself, family. I own a primary residence, a rental property, and a 56 unit apartment building with my parents, massive undertaking. But we didn't get there overnight, and there was a lot of issues along the road, along the way. But it's that kind of stuff. What keeps me up is that I hope that difficulties don't dissuade people from just pressing forwards. You know what I mean? Like, it takes a lot of grit and perseverance to keep at it, and to realize that it's not gonna ruin your day. I mean, it might ruin your day, but it's not gonna ruin your whole life. Like, if you have an issue with a rental property, it's okay. Nothing's immediate, nothing's urgent. It'll take care of itself eventually. You'll make the right steps and just hang on tight. Like, you'll just enjoy the ride. It's an experience. You won't make that mistake next time, and move on.
Yeah, and that's a good point, because with so many businesses and startups, the times are going to get tough at some point. You'll have little bumps in the road, like you said, and just realizing that those are bumps in the road, but they're also learning opportunities. And mindset is everything. You see it, you learn from it, you move forwards. As we say, sit in service, suck it up, move on, and you'll be good.
Yeah. Agreed. Exactly. We've had we have a lot of good stories in our group, but there are a couple of stumbling blocks or a couple of bumps in the road that happen. But that's kind of like why we created our group, is because a lot of military folks, there's a barrier of entry of trust, right? We're like, right. I don't know if I can get into this world, and what if I don't see this rental property? And well, that's what we're all for. We're like a quality control hub. We're a group that kind of, we take care of our own, and we all just like kind of get through it together. And if there's an issue, you have all of a sudden you have like just a multitude of other people that you can ask, like, hey, has this ever happened to you? Has a tenant ever broken your dishwasher? What did you do in that situation? And then you have all these guys able to tell you like, hey, this, that, and the other thing. The beauty about what we're doing, and the reason why we call it active duty passive income, is that if you set everything up, it should be fairly passive. You should have a property manager who is taking care of you. You're not going to be getting phone calls about broken dishwashers. You might get an email eventually that they'll ask you like, hey, do you want us to buy a new one, or kind of just fix this one up? Like, that's pretty much about it. And you might get an occasional squatter, but that's very, very, very rare. But you're not going to be on the phone answering broken toilet calls. I guess that's what my point is you're not going to have to worry about it too much. The property manager should take care of everything. And if you do the numbers right, if something breaks, you should have had that reserved already to kind of fix it, and it's not going to affect your numbers and your cash flow. So, like I said, but there's a lot of good, but there are some kind of painful experiences, but it's all good. It's all good for learning.
Yeah, and a key caveat there is something you were mentioning, Markian, is, and kind of build on that, is when you're setting up that relationship with the people, say the ones that are going to be your property managers, and then the relationship that they build. Yeah. Right. When you build that relationship with them, and then they in turn are building that with the tenant, is that the expectation is up front. And so you build that relationship to where they know what to expect, up front. And so you're not going to have, the bad tenant situation because you already tell them, this is what we expect. You put that out there, you sort of set the stage. And so a lot of people are I think, worried about, the what ifs and they're creating a whole bunch of head trash when you don't have to worry about that. Just, you build that relationship, with knowing what the terms of the relationship are up front.
Yeah.
That goes across with any business.
Yeah. Yeah. For example, with our apartment complex with 56 units, that's a lot of people living in their lives depending on the operation you run. We eventually just told our property manager, because we're expecting, a ton of maintenance every single month, like over $5,000 worth of maintenance every single month, but it's okay because that's in our numbers. It makes sense for us. We told them, like, hey, if anything's under $200, don't even email us for approval. Just do it, because we're trying to make it more passive. We're trying to show them that our property manager, as long as we trust our property manager, trying to show them, like, hey, we trust you. Like, if the toilet's broken, you need to fix it, just do it. Don't call us. Don't email us. Don't bother us. Just let us know at the end of the month, like, hey, this is what we did. This is what it cost. We'll be like, cool. And then every month to month, if there's like, if something seems out of place or it's too much on a certain month, we'll look into it and we'll figure it out. But it's not gonna, we have worked it all out. That being said, for example, we're not happy with our property managers at our apartment buildings. We're actually changing them. Not the end of the world. We interviewed a couple of new property managers, some that actually have better software and a little more modern for our liking, especially since we're not living right next to our apartment building. And we're going to have them take over in a couple of months. It just, it is what it is. And we don't stress about it. I mean, there is a little bit of stress, but it's not anything crazy. You just have to roll with the punches and move on to the next one. Yeah.
So how did you work in? Now, I'm guessing that with your business, you did have to go through the proper, business planning stages and so forth to set, the business plan and the strategies to keep all of that going. How did that work with your business?
Just real quick, is this about our online education platform, or is this just about like my personal me and my family's real estate investing?
No, either one.
Okay. So, I mean, I can cover. So I think what might also, I've been talking a lot about real estate, and guys, please feel free to look me up and talk to me about that stuff after this podcast. But as far as the other side of what I'm doing is I'm running an online business, so to speak. It is really a website and a mentorship platform for people that get into this. And so the way I got into that world was very different than the mindset was the same. I was like, I want to create an income producing asset. So I figured, hey, I'm really good at computer stuff. I'm doing this real estate stuff. Why don't I bring it all together? And I start teaching people through my technical skills and recording videos and stuff and get them, step by step to see how I did it, to show them kind of our story, my team's story. I got 4 other guys with me, and we're all just teaching them different aspects of it. And so I just started. There wasn't a lot of planning up front. It was just me. I created a website, and I was like, all right. And then I spent 6 months just recording PowerPoint videos and myself doing interviews on specific topics and laying out a syllabus. And that syllabus took a lot of planning, because I realized that there was no like path. Like, hey, if you're in the military and you want this to be passive and there's certain things you need to learn, just watch this, one video after another, and then it'll kind of all click, and then you'll be ready to go. There's no one thing military curated out there that I could find. We're the only real military real estate investing online club. And so there was no support system like what we are now for me back then. And I was like, I want anybody like Sergeant Schmuckatelli, Captain Door, whatever you want to call them, coming in and being like, holy cow, this is what I've been looking for. Like somebody who's been wanting to create passive income, and they're like, oh, I just need to follow this course. Then there'll be a whole group of guys just like me that once we're all on the same level of education, I can start buying properties and I can start getting motivated by each other. And so that was really all the planning I had. I was like, I just want that to exist. And so I started recording these videos And then it just started like going out of control. Like the thing was as soon as I put those two together, my skills with my passion, it was like, boom, people started coming to me. I met my next business partner, then my third business partner, then my fourth business partner, and then we added team members. And it was just like, it just became magnetic. It was like, I loved it so much and they felt that. And then it's crazy because now my team members almost love what I've created more than I do. And I'm kidding, but like, it's insane to see everybody's passion about how they're so protective over this group we've created, this website. And because they've poured their heart and souls into this. And one of our guys is getting out in November and he literally wants to do like, he wants to run our company or help me run our company full time like that. And so, creating that was, I don't want to say planning because there's planning as we go, every single step, like the marketing I obsess about because we want to get the word out farther. Every single lesson we make, every single video we make, we started obsessing about. We started planning each step out, and we have a long-term vision of where we want to go now. But I would say the first half year or year even, we're just a little bit over a year old now. It was kind of, we just, as opportunities presented themselves, we're like, oh, maybe we'll integrate this aspect, or maybe we'll show people how to do this now, and it just kind of spun out of control. Like what I thought was just going to be a standard group of lessons, like 25 video lessons on how to invest in real estate became so much more. And the club is awesome. And just seeing people close on properties while on deployment or, in Okinawa, Japan, and they've never seen the thing and they're comfortable with it because they ran the numbers backside, inside and out, and they saw the property like pictures and they saw what the renovations were done. I'm going way off topic of what you're asking. Your basic question was, what was the planning? And honestly, in the beginning, was not a lot of planning because I didn't know this was all going to happen. I just wanted to create a website with a course that educated people, and maybe I could make some income off of that. And I didn't really know how, other than maybe selling the course for super cheap, which is what we do. Like there's $5,000, $10,000, $15,000 programs. Ours is very, very inexpensive, and it's really just to cover our system's costs, and then we have fun. It's a club, so yeah. And I apologize, not a lot of planning. It just kind of happened.
Yeah, and in a lot of ways, I would certainly, for most people, would caution against, just jumping in the deep end of the pool because, when you're mentioning, it just kind of went crazy. That's sort of to be expected if you don't have, something planned ahead of time. But yeah. I'm certainly glad that things have been in a positive direction for you.
Yeah, yeah.
And you've been able to sort of rein that in and sort of get that tamed a little bit, tame that beast.
Yeah, and
like you say, you never know if it's just going to explode on you, and if you don't have that roadmap, so to speak, then
right. And like I said, we do a lot better. We do a lot more planning now that we're just, we're actually a revenue producing company, and we have had people close on properties. Not, again, I don't want to say that we get these people properties. We help them find them, and then they have to invest in them on their own. But now there's a lot of planning involved. And I will say one thing that is very, very important is communication with the team. And I know everybody says that, but I found technical ways or like with modern technology to do that very easily. So if any of your listeners are just starting up a company, they want to figure out what the best way to talk with their team is, a couple of ways I would recommend if you don't mind. I'm not affiliated with these companies, just what I love using. One is Slack Messenger. Imagine like iMessage or Facebook Messenger or whatever, but it is its own forum with threads, and you can add team members and you can decide who sees what, and you have all these like different threads for different topics, and you can tag each other. It's like its own little social network and forum for just your company. It's so much fun. And that's a huge element of our success is Slack, is because we're just able to, we don't email each other anymore. Like when I have to email something, it's literally just because I need to make something a little more official, or it's going outside of our communication networks. Like Slack is really how we communicate, and it's wonderful because we can search through it. Everything's organized in the threads and the topics, and it's beautiful. Another thing now that we just discovered, and this is actually kind of, but it's called Voxer. And this is something that's really cool because we love, sometimes, okay, how should I put it? Sometimes I don't have time to write down all my thoughts. Sometimes I've actually found myself doing a video message from my phone and uploading that and sending it to my guys. Voxer just lets you, kind of like an iMessage on the phone, you just kind of click the microphone button and you send an audio message. Voxer is that and Slack combined. You just tap the walkie-talkie button, you just say what you think, and then everybody on the other end hears it. And it just went crazy. Like we just started talking with each other that way because you don't have to stand somewhere on the phone and spend an hour conversation. You could just say your 1 or 2 minute thought, and then it gets to your entire group, and then they just respond. And actually a lot of consulting companies started using Voxer this way because it's wonderful. It you just, if you don't want to spend your hours and hours a month talking to your consulting clients on their schedule, you can just have them send you audio messages. When you have time, you get back to them, and it's still just as personal as a phone conversation, but it fits both people's schedules. Another tool is Asana. Now, Asana, ASANA, is what we use for project management. It's like our checklist, to-do list, and it's also super social. Like you can tag team members and reassign dates and make tasks within tasks, and you can have a timeline, and it has an app and it's on the web, and it's just beautiful. Like all these things are just making our company seem like a 20-person operation when it's really just, a handful of us. Those are definitely force multipliers. And I would definitely, and I can talk about online systems and automation and all that forever, but I think maybe we can have that's a different podcast episode. But basically I feel like I've kind of mastered the art of running a company with very, very little time and people, and kind of automating things, like automating emails, automating chatbots, like sending, triggering certain occurrence, like when something happens, triggering a certain automation after that. Because then you just seem a lot more sophisticated when you have all that done.
Yeah, and another one, when you were mentioning Slack, that popped up in my mind that I have actually used within my practice was Yammer. That I believe Microsoft put that out, and it was sort of a Facebook-ish type thing. So it had that similar social media type feel, but you're able to set up your departments and so forth within that. And it was just a really awesome tool to be able to, as long as you all use the same email extension, which mine was the same through my email service. So you had the same email extension, then everybody is under one company organization, and it's really cool to have your own private social media network. And
it's amazing.
Makes it really, really well. And you can upload and download documents back and forth and have resources available there that's out in the cloud. So it just makes working so much easier.
Agree. It's fantastic. And actually, so Slack is where we run our club too. So when people join the course, we then give them a private invitation to Slack and into the Start the Spark workspace, and all of a sudden they see all the messages, and it's super, super intimate and private. So it's your own little social network. It's your own little Facebook. That being said, we're actually going to be moving on to a different system maybe, but I'm not going to get into that. There's something really cool coming down the road. But guys, also not only real estate, if you ever want to reach out to me about just, online business principles, automation and software, I can talk your ear off about that.
So something, that's so important is, especially when you're starting a business, is, having mentorship. There's having mentors out there that have done what you want to do. They've achieved what you want to achieve and have reached the place that you want to get to. When you have those type of relationships, you can't put a a dollar value on that, because that, they've already seen all the problems that you're going to be seeing, and they can save you so many steps, because yes, success happens through failure, but the best kind of experience is somebody else's failure. It hurts a lot less. And so if you can learn from what somebody else has already done,
you are absolutely right.
Then, and so, mentorship. And that sounds like, really, marking on what this Start the Spark thing, with the club that you're talking about, kind of what that is, it's being able to be, part of a mentorship group, to where people can, share that knowledge and experience. I dealt with this, and this is what I did. And so other people can learn from that. Masterminding, if you will. And
absolutely.
It's huge, because I can't say enough about mastermind groups. And in fact, I'm starting up one with the group that we're both part of, that to be masterminds for other business people and even non-business people. Just mastermind as far as I dealt with this situation, and this is how I handled it, and save somebody some steps, save them a lot of headaches and a lot of blood, sweat, and tears.
Absolutely. I couldn't agree more. And that was the whole purpose behind the club, because a lot of times, it's just like when you go to school, you have all the material, but sometimes you just want to ask a teacher a question. And I don't even see myself as like an educator or a teacher. It's kind of a weird thing for me to say, because I never thought that was going to happen, even though maybe that's what this whole company is morphed into. And it's really an educational platform, more than just, hey, this is how I did it. Like, hey, how can I help you? But as far as like, I also have my own mentors, by the way. Like I didn't do all this on my own. And that's why, for example, I made so many mistakes down the road. And until I actually joined a club here in Southern California, where it's just like and I found a rental property through them. Until that happened, I didn't actually have a rental property of my own. I tried to get a bunch, and I made a bunch of mistakes, and I knew what not to do. And I felt I felt oversaturated with education. Like I knew almost too much. And I was like, I need to get a rental property. And like, I didn't even want to start the website until I had one closed on, because I was like, I could give people all the advice on all the mistakes I've made, but I need to lead by example. So I got one rental property, because now that I had this group and everybody like just kind of helped me just align the pieces and get a turnkey property, boom, did that. Then a couple of months later, me and my parents closed on the multifamily property. And that's when I kind of launched the course, and everything was already set. It's like everything just fell into place. Mentorship. Like, so basically that club kind of helped me mentor me to just making it happen finally, or just giving me an easier solution to trying to just do it on my own. And then also, like, as far as the website and the whole, our company, I remember when I started it, I was thinking, hey, I'm going to teach people how to invest in real estate and how to do online business and marketing. And a mentor of mine, pulled me back. He was like, hey, don't start teaching people how to do online business and marketing and stuff, because you haven't mastered it yet. I'm like, well, what are you talking about? Like, I'm really good at this, that, and the other thing. He's like, yeah, but are you done with establishing a company? Have you like completely set it up? It's existed for 2 years. It's monetized very well. Have you done that already? I was like, no, but I understand how to do this, that, and the other thing. He's like, it doesn't matter. It's like, you don't have the credibility yet. And he's like, you might be really good at everything you're going to teach people, but until you've like actually done those things, it's like, don't teach people. It's like, real estate, you're doing it every day. He's like, you've done it. You've been there. You've done that. You've made the mistakes. You've had the successes. Teach people only about that. Maybe down the road, you can teach people how to do, how to build an online business. And I'm getting to that point where now I'm like, wow, this real estate thing, this educational platform is working out. I've built it using all the online principles that I have learned about. So now in maybe a year or two, I might actually open up a whole course. I'm like, hey, how do you create an online business while in the military? And that's going to be a whole other thing for me down the road, because now I've created it. I've done a proof of concept, and I've taught people about things that I actually do every day. And now I can recycle all of that knowledge, that entire experience, on how I created that system and show people how to create systems like that.
Sure.
So I guess those two mentorship pieces. I had mentorship in real estate, and then I had a mentor in the online business space that told me to not go down that route. He kind of guided me and focused me. So I guess what I'm trying to get at is it's like everybody needs mentorship. Not only the mentors have their own mentors too.
Sure. Absolutely. Yeah. The best people in the business, have somebody that they go to, all across the board. Everyone has that go-to person.
Yeah.
Now, Markian, how do you incorporate, let me back up a little bit. How do your personal values and your beliefs play a role in your business?
Wow. So personal belief of mine is that in America. So first of all, I think America is the greatest country in the world, and I'm coming from being a generation immigrant, and so there was a value and a belief there from the very beginning that America kind of adopted my whole family from both sides, my parents' side, my mom's, from my dad's side, my mom's side. Their parents moved post World War II and or religious oppression in Yugoslavia, but they're all Ukrainian background, and they all moved to the States, and just serendipitously my parents got together. And I actually was born in Ukraine because my dad was a nuclear engineer working on Chernobyl, writing his dissertation on there. I always joke about him being a huge nerd. So they actually moved back to Ukraine, and that's where I was born 6 months prior to the fall of the Soviet Union. So that experience and living there until I was 15 and a half, I saw, there were pockets of time where I lived in London and in the States, but mostly I lived in Ukraine, and I saw people living a very, very different life. I saw people that didn't have the financial opportunities that we do in America. I saw people that were just brought down by corruption. And so seeing that made me just realize how important it is that we don't waste what is given to us here in America. And that's right. Kind of a personal belief. It's like, I don't want to waste the opportunity that was given to me. I want to make sure that we use this, what I call the cornerstone of American wealth, and that is real estate. And we this is like my new duty, like I feel like I need to get more of American real estate. I need to provide more jobs, provide more affordable housing, get smarter with finances, all that stuff that real estate provides. Honestly, if it wasn't for real estate, I wouldn't understand finances well. I would probably fail at creating my online business because real estate has so many principles built into teaching, and it kind of just through osmosis, you learn about how America operates. And so anyways, what I'm getting at is my personal belief is don't waste an opportunity, right? And I think, and don't waste, the opportunities that America provides you, and just seeing the contrast, seeing two completely different worlds, and coming back to the States and joining the military kind of follows that, I guess. And then just the next logical step was becoming an entrepreneur, I guess, in America, because honestly, I think that's what America is all about. And I also think, obviously, that performing a certain trade, a certain job, being just a teacher or being a doctor is also incredibly important. And that is the only way any country is going to go forwards. But also just on the side, learn about creating your own finances. Don't be stuck in the one little mindset of just doing your day-to-day job. I think a lot of my military brothers and sisters, sometimes they get trapped in like, hey, I'm just going paycheck to paycheck. Well, put a little bit like that. That's one of my personal beliefs. And that's why, we created this company. It's like, put a little bit more effort into your finances. Like you are smart enough. You do have enough time. I think I almost felt like I was brought up in the military to where, hey, you don't have time. You're not smart enough. Just put your money away. Just put it away in a TSP, Roth IRA. You don't have the ability to think this through right now. You need to focus on your primary job. Well, I think I'd be doing myself and my country a disservice if I didn't kind of spend time really establishing myself. We hear it in the news all the time about how many homeless veterans are on the streets. Like, obviously, right. I'm not saying that's an extreme example, but that is a thing. and so I think by educating people, more people it'll just kind of become magnetic, and it'll spread the word, and some people's lives will be better. Not to sound super dramatic there, but seriously.
Yeah, I agree with you, because it seems like it's you mentioned the homelessness, that it's kind of symptomatic of the the entitlement mentality that we need to break from the veterans, and other people in general, but especially our veteran community. I mean, we have so many abilities and skills that we learned in our time in service that we shouldn't have that entitlement mentality and that broken mentality. We should be thinking abundant mentality rather than scarcity mentality, and looking for ways to create something and be part of something bigger. And that ultimately is why even I created the podcast to be talking about legacies, is because that is a big concept. And when we enlisted because we wanted to be part of something larger than ourselves. And what's larger than creating a legacy that's going to be around for 3, 4, 5 generations? I mean, that's probably the largest enterprise we can go into.
Agreed.
And when you're starting up your business, what kind of I guess hurdles or bumps in the road, if you will, what'd you come across when you're starting your business, being active duty also?
So obviously, first of all, I'd say the biggest for me is just making sure people don't think that I'm like changing my focus. Your job, military job is your primary focus, is your job. In terms of your professional life, the military is still my number one priority. So I need to make sure that I'm not trading one priority for another. And that remains my primary focus. So I would say that the difficulty, it's not a bump in the road. Difficulty was making sure that even though I'm projecting how excited and how pumped I am about our company, about real estate investing, that people don't think that that's taking over my primary occupation. And just because, and the analogy I bring some people, I'm like, hey, you might be watching, football and every single day. Like I had friends that watch football every day. There's nothing wrong with that, but my football is literally building my company and doing real estate. So I'm like, hey, how many hours do you spend on that? Okay, well, this is my thing, and so, but it's a little bit, the standard military thing is you work hard, you play hard, and then that's pretty much it, right? And so showing people that, hey, I have another thing that I work hard on, and it's not interfering. It's not scary. I can show you what I'm doing. Like it just that was the difficulty. Like just sometimes people around me, they just think I'm crazy that I'm like, that I'm spending so much time creating this website. They're like, don't understand the fascination. And I'm just, it is what it is. I mean, I love it. And I think that what's happening now is it's kind of coming full circle, and people are now getting more interested in wanting to meet up and talk about it, because now it doesn't seem like just a fascination. It's got legs. It's going forward. So I would say that was a little bit difficult. I would say balancing family is also it's always a balance. It's always, as Dan Dwyer called it, is like a work-life integration or family work integration. Don't quote me on that, Dan. Sorry, I can't remember exactly how you said that. But he talks about it not being a balance, but the integration, right? You really have to learn how to make your family a part of everything you're doing, because you're passionate about it, and you want to show them why you're passionate about it, and you want them to be passionate about it. You want them to support you. You don't want to just like trade time all the time. Like, oh, okay, now I'm with my family. Now I'm with my company. Now I'm with, the military. Now I'm with this, that, and the other thing. Like, just make it all one thing. Teach everybody about what you're doing, make it a symbiotic relationship. Try to involve your spouse or your children. And, like if you're real estate investing, have your spouse help you do property analysis, have your kids like shred paper and save taxes on that, by the way. I'm just saying, like, there's, make it an integration. So, and sure. It is difficult, but it is, oh my gosh, it is very rewarding.
It is. And, you're kind of alluding to a good point there that, with our being entrepreneurs, it's part of our lifestyle. It's not like, you punch the clock 9 to 5 and then you go home and you're a different person. You are the person that you are. And so you're that same person, whether you're working or whether you're not working. And so it should be part of who you are, not just something that you do. Because if it's part of who you are, you enjoy doing it. If it's something that you do, then at some point you're going to dread doing it. So, which side of the fence do you want to be on? Do you want to be on the one that does what you love, and you wake up wanting to do it, you go to sleep wanting to do it, and you eat, breathe, and speak that language? Or are you going to do something that you're doing for the drudgery of it just because it brings in a paycheck? That at the end of the day is why we become entrepreneurs. Is we don't just want a paycheck. We want something bigger than that. It's the whole life. It's the whole life, being able to express ourselves through what we do.
Agreed. Couldn't say it better myself. Yeah.
So ultimately, what compelled you to go into real estate?
Ultimately, it was reading Rich Dad, Poor Dad.
Okay.
It wasn't the compelling moment. It was the light bulb. It was the spark. It was the epiphany. It was like, holy cow, I can create. Okay, here's the difference. I was always thinking I needed to save money for retirement.
Mm-hmm.
Now I think completely differently. I threw that out the window. I was like, now I need to create assets or purchase assets, invest in assets that are producing income every month. Because I would much rather have $10,000 every month than have $1 to $2 million when I'm 65. That's the shift. Is that I would rather, because I would rather not eat away at a savings, because you need to. I think it is like you need to be able to live off of 4% of your according to Tony Robbins. You need to be living off of 4% of your savings in order to be able to maintain that after retirement until the day you die or whatever. And so if you want to spend $80,000 every single year, you need $2 million saved up. And so I don't know how realistic that is when you find out that I think, oh my gosh, the statistics are abysmal. Some very, very percentage of people actually have saved up for retirement. Because, life happens and they stop putting money away, or who knows what's going to happen down the road. Why not create something that is just absolutely, you're forcing yourself into that position, something that's going to be saving money for you, like tenanting off that debt. That is going to be equity in your pocket someday. And then also the thing that's immediately impacting your lifestyle. Like if I have 20 rental properties, I know I'm financially free. Or if I have a 56 unit apartment building, for example, that's producing $6, $8, maybe sometimes $10,000 every single month, that is boom. Like that property is going to be my parents' retirement. When my dad stops teaching, that's going to be their retirement. And so that's the thought process, is like, it switched. I was like, I don't need to have money in the bank that I'm going to be slowly eating away. I'm going to create streams of income when I'm young, so that maybe I'll even retire earlier, like way earlier. So that was the shit.
Yeah, and you made several really good points there that I wanted to kind of pull out there for our listeners. That you're mentioning, putting, that mindset shift. That's huge. That's a huge point that you mentioned, because so many people are thinking, and I've called it the big lie of finance, is that you work the 9 to 5 so that when you reach a certain age you can retire and live off of what you saved up. And you also mentioned the 4% thing that Tony Robbins has, which actually I would disagree with the 4% number that he quotes, because that's really not feasible for people to do. They'll run out of money.
No, I agree.
They're going to run out unless they're doing 2 to 3% is really more like it, and that's taking a horrible haircut. And why would somebody want to do that? So, taking that all back is, when you're saying, building the assets, the asset class lifestyle is where it's at. You build the assets so that you have that now. You're still going to have that later. So, instead of focusing on, okay, I'm going to work all these years so that when I get to this point, then I can just kick my feet up, take it easy, and I'll live off the rest. That's not legacy mindset. Yeah. It's creating the assets so that you're living off of it today, but when you get there, you're still going to be living off of that. And when you're through with it, your kids are going to be living off of it, and they're going to build on it.
Yeah, I bought my son a rental property. Yeah, I bought my son a rental property when he was born, or plus or minus a couple of months, because that's going to be his college. I'm going to pass it on to him, and I'm going to be like, hey, This is an asset. Here's your spending money while you're in college. You're going to use this cash flow to pay off your student loans and debt, because everybody else is going to be scrambling, paying off their student debt. You're just going to use this rental property. Don't sell it. Hold on to it. If it's paid off by then, great. It'll be making ridiculous cash flow. If it's not, just hold it. It'll be paid off soon. And you use it to pay off, like it's insane. Like when you look at these things, I look at it like other people, like each property is a person with a job, and they're giving me their paycheck, and after you have it for 30 years, or maybe you pay it off early, you figure out how to do that. You put more down on principal or whatever, that you don't have to pay for your principal and interest anymore. Your mortgage is cut down. So all you have to do is pay like some taxes and insurance. All of a sudden you're now making a ridiculous amount of cash flow off of each property. So if you buy 10 now, with like, let's say you go in with your parents and you're still a young buck in the military and you're like in your 20s, and you're like, hey, I'm going to buy 10 properties with my parents and my aunts and uncles. And then like 30 years down the road, all of those are paid off. Over those 30 years, they were all increasing in rent by 3%. And now you're just, what is that? Do the math, guys. It's going to be paycheck you're going to be making. Like that is, and those are assets. You wrap them in an LLC, and you have like this fund for your family now, and all of a sudden everything's figured out. It sounds like I'm preaching some super crazy magical scheme, but it's not. It's 90. I think it was Carnegie said that like 95% of American millionaires got there through real estate. It's the cornerstone. And I'm not saying don't do other things. Like you said, this is just one of the stools, but this is a solid stool. This is a solid leg of this.
That's right. That's right. Yeah, you're totally correct. So kind of looking at, we'll do sort of a couple questions about character traits here. What would you say is your greatest strength?
Honestly, I think I look to the future a lot, and I think I use my past experiences to drive my future aspirations. I talked about this with Chris Coker a little bit, and he kind of coached me through understanding what I was even saying. Honestly, he called it positive feedback loops. I tell people like, hey, the one thing that pushes me along is often just remembering a past experience. And for some reason for me, it was when I was in Calc 2, I was at the Naval Academy. I was taking Calculus 2, and my mind was blown when I walked into the class. And then 3 or 4 months later, I was taking the final exam, and I got the second highest grade in the class. And I realized that looking back, and I was like, wow, I've gotten so far along. It was just like, just eating away that elephant one bite at a time. And here I am. Well, I then forced myself to realize that that's how every single thing is going to be in my life. Whenever I start a new thing, I might not know a single thing about it. Martin Luther King said, like, you're not going to see the top step, but still take the first step, or whatever. I'm paraphrasing it, but down the road, a year later, and that's what's driving me, is imagining myself a year later, I'm going to be able to look back proudly and say, like, holy cow, this year went by lickety split. I didn't even realize it, because all I did is spend maybe half an hour a day, but times 365 days, I've put in 365 or more hours into this company, little by little, and now it's this huge thing. And that's the positive feedback loop. Is you look back at a previous experience that had that moment where you were able to look back and know, wow, look how far I've come, and say to yourself when you're starting a new thing, like, hey, that's going to happen to me with this thing. I'm going to be able to look back, and that's just something that's just honestly, like, I didn't do that on purpose. It just happened for me on accident. I started applying that with every single thing I did. I started thinking, like, I'm going to look back at this a year down the road, and it's going to be awesome. Same thing with flight school. Like, I'm going to look back at this when I get my wings, and I'm going to be like, holy cow, 2.5 years later, whatever it was, 2 years later, here I am. I did it,
Yep. So on the flip side of that, what would you say your greatest weakness would be then?
I'm not going to give one of those answers like, oh, I focused too much, or I paid too much into detail, like kind of the hidden positives, but that people try to spin as a negative. I'm going to try to say something that is really, I think it's something I still struggle with, and it's kind of paying attention to the now. And this is more of a family and a life thing. Like I sometimes think too far into the future, and I focus too much on what our future financial situation is going to be and how awesome it's going to be down the road, instead of kind of just taking pleasure in the now. So it might be part of that work, life, family integration piece. And I think I just need to, I don't think I can ever be perfect at it. I always need to work on myself. And that's kind of one of my struggles, is really trying to make sure I take pleasure in the now with my company, with my family, with everything. Sure.
So what's the place that you go to get your best ideas when you're needing to brainstorm? Is there like in nature or somewhere in your house, or is there a special spot you go to?
Honestly, it's in my car. I commute way too much, like an hour in the morning and an hour in the afternoon. I turn on a podcast or I just listen to music, and I just think. Like I call my car the Automobile University. I wrote a blog post on that, and I just podcasts, audiobooks, you name it, and then those just get my mind racing. Like I need to hear somebody else's thoughts. I need to hear another angle, and then I'll like add my own kind of ideas, and that's where I kind of my car is where everything happens.
Okay, cool. So I kind of to wind up, I have a special question here, since you are a Marine. We'll give you the special Marine wrap up question.
Yeah.
If you're to be a new color of crayon, what color would that be, and how would you describe it?
If I'd be a color crayon, I would be cobalt. I remember seeing that crayon color. I think Crayola made it, and it became kind of my favorite color, because my favorite color is always blue when I was a kid. And I think if you realize I think our website is mostly cobalt. It's like this darker blue. And that particular crayon actually had a little bit of like this sparkly, I don't know. It wasn't like glitter. It was just, it had a little bit of a twinge of, something that made it kind of stand out and be shinier than just a regular crayon. And I don't know, that just popped into my head. Yeah, that's an interesting question. I love dark blue. Our website is blue and gold. I came from the Naval Academy, but it's a dark blue. And I think I don't think we're like some people say you don't need to be the loudest guy in the room. You just need to be, I think that color is about us. We're just, if you're interested and if you want to learn about what we're doing, we are very deep. We're a deep color, but we're not like screaming for attention. We're not yellow, I guess. I don't know, meta there, but there you go.
Okay. So I guess, as we're closing off here, the final thing I would say is just, what are some good contact methods for people to get a hold of you, to reach out to you? And you have your website, activedutypassiveincome.com, I think you said. But how do people get a hold of you?
Our website has all of our little profiles. If you go to the team page there, you guys can contact me via Instagram. It's just Markian. So here's my name. It's spelled like Mark and Ian smushed together. It's like Markian. So that's my name. It's a weird Ukrainian name. So Instagram at Markian. Our Twitter is at AD Passive Income. Our Facebook page is so first of all, our Facebook group, we have a direct URL that goes to our Facebook group, is www.militaryrealestateinvesting.com. And we have over 1,000 members there. It's completely free. You just have to make sure you answer the questions on the front. We want to make sure you guys are somehow affiliated to the military before you join. And we just talk about real estate, and we have live Q&As in there all day long. It's awesome. And then our website, like you said, is activedutypassiveincome.com. My email is markian at activedutypassiveincome.com. Just any of those methods. If you drop on our website, we have a little chat bot. You can message in there. Guess who's probably going to respond? It's probably going to be me, and you guys can connect with me that way. So, yeah, all of those methods.
Cool. So, I mean, several websites, and Twitter, Facebook, the whole gamut, emails. So now people know how to get a hold of you, and there's no excuse to not be able to learn how to do what you're doing. And if they're interested in learning more, then the resources are there. So Markian, it was a pleasure having you on the program today. Thank you for coming in and spending some time, carving time out of your schedule, here on a holiday, there for you. So, I appreciate it. And as I always say to every guest, I'll see you around the bend, my friend.
All right. Thank you. Take care. I appreciate it. Thank you, guys. Take care.
Thanks a lot, brother. You've been listening to Legacy Cast. Thank you for joining us today, and be sure to come back next time as we speak with more top influencers, industry experts, and business owners from around the world.